Hold up. Every day I wake up, wake your ass up.
The Breakfast Club.
Y'all finished or y'all done?
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes.
He's here to talk about a lot, especially post-election coverage, ladies and gentlemen. Mehdi Hasan, welcome.
Great to be back, guys.
You gotta be tired,
man. How do you feel? First of all, I know y'all was partying all last night.
Yeah, you gotta be
I
tired.
wasn't partying. I was doing a live stream, so it was very noisy in Brooklyn.
Okay.
You can imagine there was some noise made at this
Absolutely.
historic election night event, and the voice took a hit. But yeah, it was very historic. We were there all night. We were alive all night.
I want to ask you a question. First of all, have you seen this? The front page of the New York Post this morning?
Let me see.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
It says, on your marks, get set, Zoe, socialist Mandani wins race for mayor, the red apple. What do you think of that?
What I think is it didn't work during the election campaign. I can't believe they're still trying this shit. I mean, the New York Post, Rupert Murdoch, they tried. They threw the kitchen sink at this guy, and it didn't work. He won a majority of the vote. In the last days, they were like, if only Sliwa pulls out. The whole campaign was Sliwa pull out. Doesn't matter if Sliwa pulled out. He won more than 50% of the vote. He won a majority in New York. He won more than 1 million votes. It's been, I think, something like they said, 60 years since a New York mayoral candidate won over 1 million votes. So none of this stuff worked. They'll keep going after him, the billionaires. And I pointed out last night, Zoran Mamdani did not just beat Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa. Zoran Mandani beat Bill Ackman and Michael Bloomberg and Reed Hastings and James Murdoch and the Walmart woman and the Home Depot guy and DoorDash and Airbnb and all the billionaires and corporations who threw all that cash at him. He beat them all.
What do you think about Bill Ackman reaching out last night? what did you think of that?
First of all, it was a very short tweet.
Yeah.
Bill Ackman writes these War and Peace Tolstoy tweets, a very short tweet. I tweeted last night thoughts and prayers to Bill Ackman and Elon Musk. This guy spent his entire campaign attacking. He suggested that Zoran Mandani is some crazy jihadist terrorist radical.
And for people that don't know who he is, he's a hedge fund manager. He's worth about $10 billion.
I envy the people who don't know who he is. I wish I didn't know who he was. But he spends a lot of money and time online. And what's interesting is it's why people hate politics in this country, right? It's so cynical. He spent the entire campaign saying that guy is a terrorist. He hates Jews, like the most extreme incendiary rhetoric. And then he wins. He's like, hey, man, I'll work with you. You need me? I'm here for you. Hold on. I thought you just told us the end of the world was going to happen if this guy won. Make your mind up.
But I do have a question. So a lot of people were saying that Mamdani promised a lot. I see you in the elevator. Yeah. And some of the things he said, free MTA.
Rent freeze, eliminating fares for
free
city buses,
stabilizing
universal
rents.
child care, building a large
There's a
number
lot
of
that he
affordable
promised.
housing.
And they're going to be on a...
Raising taxes. He's going to fund all this by raising taxes. On
right?
the top earners and corporations.
Building 200,000 houses. So he's going to be on a timer. So what do you say to those people? Can he get all those things done with everybody against him in politics, I should say?
Well, what's interesting is that everybody is not against him. The public are with him, right? He's got a massive mandate. Donald Trump is a man. Let me just put context. Donald Trump is a man who's never won more than 50% of the vote, right? In 2016, he lost the popular vote, still beat Hillary. In 2020, he lost popular vote and everything else to Biden. In 2024, last year, he got 49-point-something% of the vote. He never hit 50%. Have you listened to how Republicans talk? Like they own the place. We have a mandate. Millions of people voted for this. The people are with Trump. You need to have Democratic leaders who are willing to do the same thing. I want to hear Zoran Mamdani in every speech go, more than 1 million people voted for me. Like that should be his line in every interview at the start and end of every time he talks. Because that is his mandate. Those are the people who are with him. And the fact that you were able to just reel off his policies.
Because he said it so much.
Yeah.
Because it works, right? Like Hillary Clinton ran with like a 700-page policy platform. No one knew what it was. Donald Trump said, ban Muslims, build a wall. People remember that stuff. So it was political genius to communicate with those kind of simple, popular appeals. Is he going to pull it all off? We will see. I mean, we know that he doesn't have the power to do everything on his own. Luckily, the governor is now an ally. Kathy, even though Schumer and others wouldn't back him, he did get the backing of the governor. I interviewed Tish James last night, the Attorney General. He's got the backing of some big figures in the state. Well, will that be enough? We will see. We will see whether the smile and the charm and the charisma and the people power will get Albany to do some of this stuff because he can't do it on his own. You're right.
Well, Governor Hochul already said she's not going to raise the taxes.
She said she's not going to raise taxes, but she also said she supports his plan for universal childcare. So at some point, the rubber's going to hit the road. How do you pay for it? It can only be through raising taxes on rich folks.
Can there be free bus service in New York City?
I mean, there could be anything you want. I mean, look,
Realistically, could that happen?
I live in a country where Donald
I took a
Trump
bus
is
to school
president.
every day. I mean, that would be great. You're right.
I live in a country where the guy from Home Alone 2 is president, threatening to annex Greenland. And you tell me if free buses are realistic. I think a lot of things are realistic if you put your... I mean, Democrats are always trying to lower the ambition. And Republicans are like, we'll do whatever the hell we want. We'll conquer countries. We'll bomb things. We'll do all sorts of insane things. And Democrats are like, oh, can we do this little bit for poor people or marginalized people or people who need help? And I just think, come on, New York, biggest city in the country, richest city in the country. You can't do this stuff? Yes, you can.
I want to see him do it.
You know how...
I do. I really do.
And by the way, if they block him, I mean, this is a man who will run again on this platform. I mean, FDR ran in the 1930s on the basis that, look, they hate me, the rich people, and I embrace their hatred. And I can very much see if he doesn't get things through and it's clear it's because of the opponents, he'll run on that again in a few years' time.
I want to ask about that. How does he navigate the government overreach that is absolutely going to happen from Donald Trump?
It's a good question. I asked Tish James the same question yesterday. I mean, all Democratic attorneys generals have been dealing with this issue in California, in Illinois. We know Donald Trump is now going to use his excuse to send in the troops.
Absolutely.
To cut funding. I mean, it's insane that he posted on his social site at the weekend, if you vote for Zoran Mamdani, if Zoran Mamdani wins, I will cut funding. Like, that is the classic mob boss. That is
crazy.
Just extortion. The country's biggest, richest city, the President of the United States says, I'm not going to send you any money if you don't vote for the guy I want. And by the way, the guy you wanted was Andrew Cuomo. So I just think look, I don't know if there's any solution to this stuff. I think it can't be Mamdani on his own, right? The whole point about Donald Trump is you can't beat him on his own. What he does is he goes after institutions and people one by one, like the bully in the playground, and takes them out one by one. The only way you beat Donald Trump is with solidarity, with people sticking together, not people throwing each other under the bus. Big universities, big tech companies, all trying to curry favor. I actually thought the best part of Zoran Mamdani's speech last night was when he went after Trump and made it very clear. He said the way you respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism is not with the appeasement they crave, but with the strength they fear. And he said you get rid of the conditions that create despots like Trump. You don't hear that enough from the Democratic Party. All you hear from Democrats is, we've got to get rid of Trump and back to business as usual. What Zoran Mamdani is saying, and Bernie and others have said, is you can't just get rid of Trump. You've got to get rid of the next Trump. And that means getting rid of the conditions that created Trump.
Can you vote out an authoritarian regime? Like, because I see everybody celebrating, and I'm like, relax. The guy's still in power. I don't care
3
how
years minimum.
Yes, and I don't care how unpopular he is. He's got a lot of power, and he can
agree.
use that power to, get rid of a lot of the checks and balances that, still exist. Can you vote that out in 2026? In 2028?
I mean, that's the $64,000 question. It's something I've been worried about since 2018, 2019, when I said he's not going to leave after 2020, and he tried to stay on. Look, the guy is selling merch for 2028.
Word.
He's visiting world leaders. He takes them to a closet in the White House and he shows them 2028 merch. Schumer and Jeffries come to the Oval Office. He chucks the 2028 merch at them. He said the other day, I'm not going to run as vice president and do that again. But he never fully rules it out because, of course, he wants to stay in office. And I think that is the big question. Are we going to have free and fair elections in 2028? But the way to ensure that we do have 2028 free election, or at least try and ensure is to make sure they don't control every branch of government. And what last night's blue wave, and it was a blue wave, what that shows us is actually that Democrats are on a very good path in terms of winning back the House next year. If they don't win back the House next year, then I don't think we see the back of this guy. I just think there's nothing to stop him at all.
How should Democrats look at last night? And what I mean by that is, Jersey, you expect Jersey to go blue. Mayor race in New York City, you expect that to go blue. Prop 50 in California, that's the blue state, right? Virginia, you kind of expect that to go blue.
Margins were huge.
So how should they should this be something they look at and be like, okay, this is a step in the right direction for us?
It's 100% a step in the right direction, especially you look at the Virginia House, for example, which is seen as a bellwether. They won back a bunch of seats from the veto-proof majority there. So Trump took a beating in all these places, especially in Virginia, where he fired a bunch of federal workers, Doge, all of that. It had a huge impact. But look, it's across the board. It's in special elections in Georgia. It's the Prop 50 was a 2-to-1 vote. I think Gavin Newsom will be very pleased with that result. There was a statewide race in Georgia for which they won as well. You go through the list. In Maine, they rejected an attempt to limit early voting and all sorts of other voting methods. So it's really, really interesting that across the board they did well. The margins were big. I mean, Mikey Sherrill, it was looking very close in New Jersey just last week. She actually was a blowout, right? So I do think the margins are big. It does bode well for them going into next year. My bigger worry is not that they win the House. I hope they win the House. But then what do they do with that power? Like, I have no confidence in Hakeem Jeffries. I have no confidence in Chuck Schumer. I mean, Chuck Schumer was asked yesterday, who did you vote for in your city? And he could not say who he voted for.
Wow.
Like, disgraceful doesn't come close enough to it. You are the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, and you can't say that you voted for the Democratic candidate in New York. And by the way, you said New York goes, is a Democratic city, but this guy was up against two candidates. He was up against a Republican and a famous Democrat with name recognition who was governor of the state.
Terrible candidates, though.
Terrible candidates.
Let's be honest. And I like Curtis as a person, but they're terrible candidates.
Agreed. He got lucky. You need luck in politics.
Yeah.
Donald Trump got lucky in 2016. You could argue with Hillary Clinton. But the point is, they still outspent him. They still threw the kitchen sink at him. He still had all the billionaire support. He still had the Cuomo name. If you go back 9 months, we say terrible candidate, but he had the inevitability aura. It was like it's Andrew Cuomo's race to lose. He was leading in the primaries. This was the guy who was supposed to just naturally get it because of his name and experience and money. He didn't. He got disgraced twice.
Let me ask, what does that mean for Democrats? Because it seems like when the Democrats had somebody, they split like Voltron, right? You had Eric Adams, now he's independent. You had Cuomo, now he's independent, but they're Democrats, but they all did this to go at Mamdani. So what does that mean for Democrats? Because Republicans, I don't think would ever do that. Even if they didn't like the candidate, they would still stand behind him.
I mean,
Trump.
It's a reminder that they keep nominating crappy Democrats. I mean, the fact that Eric Adams was the mayor, the fact that Andrew Cuomo was the governor tells you volumes about the New York Democratic Party and how awful it was. And I think Mamdani is a breath of fresh air. I was standing in that hall at Brooklyn Paramount last night, watching him speak, seeing the energy, the crowd, people crying, thinking to myself, this is the guy they chose to reject. This is the guy Chuck Schumer couldn't even say he voted for. This is the guy that, as you call him, AIPAC Shakur, couldn't turn up and actually, until like the Friday before the race, endorse him. What is wrong with these people? Do they not want to win? He won young men, 18 to 29, according to the NBC exit poll last night, by 40 points. To put that in context, Sherrill and Spanberger won young men by 10 and 14 points. Mamdani won by 40 points. I'm old enough to remember a year ago when Democrats were like, how do we get young men back? Do we need to go on podcasts? How do we get young men back? This guy's doing it. He's giving you a playbook. And they're like, no, we don't want the playbook. We don't want this guy. The entire party establishment rejecting him. To the very end, Hillary Clinton asked at the weekend, she's like, I don't know, I have a view. Like, none of them would come behind this guy with energy and charisma. So it's a real problem for the Democratic Party. If they decide to carry on, the classic circular firing squad where they're all just shooting each other. On Monday, Spanberger, the woman who just won the governor's race in Virginia, she was attacking Mamdani as dishonest. I'm like, what are you doing? You're both on the eve of major elections. Why are you attacking him? Like, is there not enough Republicans to attack? But that is classic Democratic Party.
I think I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, I saw a poll last night that he won just young people, 18 to
29,
by like 75%.
I'm sure if overall. Number? I didn't see the final number later, but on the male one is fascinating. He won women, of course, as well. But the male one's fascinating because all I was told by pundits was like, young men don't vote. They're all conservatives now. We were told that all young men are conservatives. We didn't see that last night. We were told Latinos all conservative now. Last night, Democrats won back Latinos across the country. Guess what? Having a rogue fascist secret police and masks picking up brown people off the street doesn't help your poll ratings.
What do you say to the people that say, because a lot of older people feel like he doesn't have the experience, and that's what scares them. So what do you say to those individuals, and what is your thoughts on it?
I will repeat my position. The guy from Home Alone 2 is president of the United States with his finger on the nuclear button. If Donald Trump can be president of the United States, anyone can be anything in this country. He is like the reverse American dream. And I think, look, he's been in the state assembly for a few years. He made a very good point in the campaign. He's like, look, my experience is not Andrew Cuomo's experience, but why would you want Andrew Cuomo's experience? I don't think people care about that stuff anymore. Look at Graham Plattner in Maine. Guy's an oyster fisherman, Marine veteran, had a Nazi tattoo on his chest, and he's filling out halls. People don't care. They want authenticity. They crave energy. They crave real people. They are fed up with the automatons and the robots and the corporate consultant-created candidates. They're done with it.
I want to go back to Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer for a second. Zoran did give me hope that there are still free and fair elections, right? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I was like, they're not going to let this.
I didn't think it was going to let them.
They're not going to let this.
They're going to pull a rabbit out the hat. Something's going to happen.
Yeah, I was worried about the same thing.
I'm like, right? But he gave me hope that there's still free and fair elections. And he also gave me hope that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer could be successfully primaried.
Yeah, I mean, Hakeem, I think, is more difficult.
Yeah.
From what I hear, I'm not the great expert on every New York district, but Schumer, for sure. I mean, Schumer is so embarrassing. You see, you look at people like my good friends at Crooked Media, the Pod Save guys, and all those guys. Everyone, across every wing, almost every wing of the Democratic Party is like, what is wrong with Chuck Schumer? Like, it doesn't matter whether you like Mamdani or not like Mamdani. You can't do that. You cannot build your entire personality around vote blue, no matter who, with a little asterisk, unless it's the Democratic Socialist Muslim guy from New York, then you don't have to endorse him. I think he's embarrassed himself. AOC was at the event last night. She has been obviously a strong supporter of Mamdani. A lot of people are divided as to whether they want her to run for president in 28 or do they want her to primary Chuck Schumer in 28. She obviously has a better chance of beating Schumer in 28 than she has of being president, which is just a bigger lift. People like Arce from the city council, people were talking about him running up against, who said about Dick Cheney yesterday, may he rest in piss, which upset a lot of Republicans, but we need that kind of blunt speaking. He's been talked about as a potential candidate against Jeffries. I think it'll be difficult to primary Hakeem Jeffries. But
I don't think so. Why do you think so?
I think the machine is very strong in places like his district. I think I've seen reports about internal polling being good, but look, anything's possible.
After seeing Mandani
started at 1%.
Exactly. After seeing that yesterday.
When I interviewed Zoran Mandani in December 2024, and I told him this to his face recently when I interviewed him again, it was a pity interview. I was like, all right, let's give this guy a platform. He's at 1%. He's a lefty. I didn't expect him to win. I'll be very honest about that. He was at 1%, and he beat Andrew Cuomo twice. So yes, it can be done, and I think they should both be really worried, especially Chuck Schumer. I think, forget primarying, Senate Democrats should be forcing his resignation right now. The guy is useless. There are many other Democrats who would do a much better job. Chris Murphy, Brian Schatz, Chris Van Hollen, people who are going out and taking the fight to Republicans. And meanwhile, Schumer's like, I will write you another sternly worded letter. And it's like, you're not the man for this moment.
The reason I think they should be challenged is because when I saw Hakeem Jeffries on Jake Tapper this weekend, I have a lot of reasons I think he should be challenged.
Many.
But I saw him on Jake Tapper this weekend, and they asked him, does he think Mandani is the future of the Democratic Party? And he was like, no, Democrats in Congress are. What does that even mean? Democrats in Congress.
I mean, you could end every Hakeem Jeffries interview and say, what does that even mean? I mean, the man talks. The man is a walking, talking word salad. I mean, it's just insane. There was a time when he used to be compared to Obama, which I don't know if that's just a racist thing. It's like a young black guy. He said, Obama.
I think so.
There's nothing like Obama. He's one of the most ineloquent people I've come across. He talks like a robot, even when he was trying to explain why he hadn't. Do you remember when they would ask you, like, why haven't you endorsed Mamdani? He would be like, he would come up with all tortuous sentences to explain himself. I mean, this is what I mean. Why would you want a party led by a robot like Hakeem when you can have a party led by a kind of dynamo like Zoran Mamdani? And it's just as simple as that, or an AOC, or many other people, or a Graham Plattner, people who actually have. I think people are just fed up of the old way of doing politics. We know that. We've known that since 2016. The Republicans worked that out a long time ago. I think Democrats still haven't quite worked it out. They're still, in Maine, they're trying to run 77-year-old governor to be a first-term senator just to stop Graham Plattner, this populist candidate. It's like they don't learn any lessons.
Yeah, I think it shows how out of touch the Democratic Party is when they're giving Mandani credit, and he should get credit, but giving him credit for using social media, galvanizing young people, and talking about affordability. Yeah. Those are the basics.
I know.
Like Obama did that in 2008.
It's amazing that this guy had to come along. Remember how Mamdani becomes famous? He goes out in Queens after the presidential election and he just stops people and says, did you vote for Trump? Why'd you vote for Trump? There's no hectoring, there's no heckling, just has conversations with them. And at the end, he's like, well, I'm running for mayor. This is what I used to do. And they're like, yeah, we support that. And I think those kind of conversations, it's not rocket science, as you say, to have that. But if you're a party that's captured by donors and the corporate class and special interests, as the Democratic Party sadly is, especially at the higher levels, then it's very hard for you to have those conversations. Like you say, it's not rocket science. No. It's like, oh, people want cheaper rent and cheaper buses and more affordable. Like, this is not rocket science. But if you're beholden to people who say, it can't be done, you can't promise that, this is impossible. And one of the things he said in his speech last night is that he has redefined what is possible or impossible.
Mm-hmm. Does this win foreshadow a shift in the national Democratic strategy? Because, I mean, Mandani was the only progressive last night. Everybody else is pretty much establishment.
Yeah, so I think that's what a lot of pundits are going to spin it as. They're already spinning it as like, look at we got a CIA officer elected in Virginia, we got a former Navy pilot in New Jersey. Who cares about the Democratic Socialist dude in New York? I don't think people are going to buy it. I don't think any person looks at Spanberger and Shaw with a great respect to these two new women governors, won great victories, and thinks that is the future. To go back to the question that Hakeem wouldn't answer, they're the future of the party. They're not. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are replacement level centrist Democrats who won on a blue wave. I think I saw a poll yesterday. The NBC exit poll said that 40% of people in New Jersey and Virginia said their sole reason for voting for Democrats was to be anti-Trump. So, like, as long as you have that Trump weighing down the Republican ticket, Democrats will benefit from that. Zoran Mamdani is offering something different. He's not just, people aren't just voting for him because they're anti-Trump. That is not the energy that's coming, especially from young people. It's because he is offering a different sort of politics, a different sort of vision, somebody who is willing to stand with working people. He began his speech last night talking about the working class, which, again, many Democrats have not talked about for a long time. Platner is, Bernie does, AOC does, and now Mamdani. So I hope they take the right lessons, but I suspect they won't. I suspect they'll say, no, let's look at what the centrists did. And by the way, I mean, Abigail Spanberger, what did she run on?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's my point.
Anti-Trump.
So if she's the model, okay, but what does she run on? I mean, this is the thing. And by the way, Mikey Sherrill, who won in New Jersey, she may be a centrist. She ran on a very populist candidate. She said, you know what she said? She said, I'm going to freeze electricity rates.
That's right.
How come we didn't have national debates about that? That's unrealistic. You can't do that.
Right.
In fact, a lot of people say it's illegal for her to do that, whether she'll be able to call a state of... Point is, who cares? She said it. She's trying it. She showed that she gives a damn about what people care about. And, the double standard is Mamdani, prove it. Nobody said that to Mikey Sherrill.
Yeah, we live in Jersey. That's all. I mean, I voted for Mikey Sherrill, and that's what I voted for. I voted for her because she was talking about affordability, because she was talking about lowering taxes, because she was talking about doing things like, the
electric bills.
Like, yeah, that's
crazy.
My only reason for voting for it.
But isn't it interesting that she said she'd freeze electricity bills, and that has not been a national scale?
Right.
Because you only question the left-wing guy.
No, you're right. I do have a question. Have you spoke to Mamdani? The one thing that scares me about Mandani is when you see the post like that and you see the amount of hate he's getting.
Yes.
Do you speak to him about security and safety?
Yes.
And how does he feel about that? Because I've never seen so much hate. You can question somebody, but the hate that's coming out of these people sometimes, I feel like it's going to be worse than that. Have you talked to him about security and make sure?
So when I interviewed him just a few weeks ago, it was a day or 2 days after a guy had just been arrested for making death threats against his staff.
Jesus.
And that was before the last few weeks of this campaign, where they really ratcheted up. This kind of radical Islamic commie. You see Ted Cruz was tweeting, he's a literal jihadist. I mean, let's just be clear to people watching.
Trump said he hates Jews. I see somebody say he should be deported. Like it's
100%. They're putting up pictures of 9/11, right? They're using 9/11 against this guy who was 9 years old on 9/11.
Yeah, I'm not looking at that. Wake up, New York. That's crazy.
Michael Bloomberg funded the super PAC that did that ad with the picture of his face over 9/11. These people should be ashamed of themselves. Andrew Cuomo went on a podcast and laughed when the host said, well, he'd be cheering on another 9/11. Ted Cruz. I mean, it's so hypocritical. These Republicans spent weeks going on about Charlie Kirk, right? Last time I came on your show, I think it was the day before or the day of the killing of Charlie Kirk. We spent weeks of Republicans saying, if you say fascist, that means you're inciting hate again. If you call us a Nazi, you're going to get us killed. Look at your language. They have spent the last few weeks calling this guy a jihadist. I want to be clear to your viewers. A jihadist, in the eyes of the American political establishment, are the people on the planes, the 9/11 planes, is ISIS, is Boko Haram, is Al-Qaeda. That is what you are comparing him to. That's what you're saying he literally is. Republicans have said one after another, he's a terrorist, he's a jihadist, he's a communist, he hates Jews, he hates America, based on nothing. Of course that's going to incite hate. Of course there's going to be death threats. I do worry about his security. I hope he has good security now that he's the mayor. Before he was the candidate, I think he had a couple of NYPD guys. I hope they have a lot of security. It's actually, it's scary, the level of Islamophobic. I talk to a lot of Muslims. I am Muslim. Wherever I go, I was in Texas at the weekend. Previous week, I was in California. Wherever I go and speak to Muslims, everyone agrees that the Islamophobia now is even worse than it was after 9/11.
Wow. Why? Just
because they've had a 20-year head start to ratchet this stuff up. Dang. They're well organized, they're well funded, and they are petrified. I mean, you see the reactions last night from all the kind of Daily Wire guys and all those guys like, New York's not a real city anymore. It doesn't contain real Americans. I mean, white supremacists are much more emboldened and much more organized than they were under George Bush. I mean, just a reminder, I loathe George Bush. The man should be in The Hague. Dick Cheney died yesterday. I did not shed a tear. But George Bush after 9/11, even George Bush went to a mosque and said, Islam is peace. Let's not blame all Muslims for what happened. Can you imagine Donald Trump doing that today? No. Of course not. None of these Republicans would. And they are waiting for him to kind of pin more stuff on him. The hate is out of control. And the hypocrisy from these people who spent the last month telling us, tone down the language, don't get us killed. And they're doing this stuff. It's I worry.
What do you say to Mandani, though? And I would love to ask him this question. For Jewish people who have real fear, right? Or for, Cuban. I was talking to a couple of my Cuban friends last night, and they was like, he's a communist. I'm looking at it now. He's a communist. It's so obvious. Those that have not been affected by communism don't see it and don't care to see it. He's selling an unrealistic dream to unfortunately ignorant people and people who are easily swayed. It's all BS. A guy who's never worked a day in his life living off mommy's money. Fidel Castro was charismatic and made promises, and when he took the reins, he killed his number two and declared he was Marxist. Cuba's been in the shits ever since. What do you say to those people? Well, how do you tell Mandani to handle those people?
I would say to Cuban Americans, in good faith, Cuban Americans who worry about communism in Cuba, I would say, I don't remember Fidel Castro's platform being fast and free buses, freeze the rents, universal childcare. To go back to how we began the discussion, like that is not communism. Like you got to go get a dictionary or educate yourself about what communism is. Zoran Mamdani is not a communist. He's a democratic socialist. He is what Bernie Sanders is. And in this country, by the way, democratic socialism is not even real socialism. It's basically European social democracy. It's what the Scandinavians have. You know who has universal childcare? Finland, Iceland, Denmark. Sweden. These countries have universal childcare. They're very nice places, very mild places. Go on holiday, Americans. Go to Sweden. It is not communist Cuba. Like the kind of, again, the incendiary rhetoric. And by the way, I would argue that that's actually a very good position for Mamdani to be in. They know the socialist stuff doesn't work anymore because people are like, we quite like that. So now have you noticed they've ratcheted up? He's a communist. Trump said on 60 Minutes, he's not a socialist. He's a communist. So they've even ratcheted that up because they know their attacks aren't working. It's so cynical. And on the front, on the anti-Semitism front, last night in his speech, he said again, he said, I will stand with Jewish New Yorkers against the scourge of anti-Semitism. He said it again. I interviewed Brad Lander last night, who was one of the main guys who endorsed him during the race, one of his top allies, Jewish American, standing up to this stuff. It's all BS. I would point out, by the way, 1 in 3 Jewish Americans, according to the exit poll, Jewish New Yorkers voted for Mamdani, right? A majority didn't. But 1 in 3 voted, a significant minority of Jewish people. This is not a monolithic community, the Jewish community. Like any community, there are different views. And a third of Jews in New York said, you know what? We like Zoran Mamdani. We don't buy the BS about Zoran Mamdani. And I've said this many times to people. Show me the one anti-Semitic statement he's made. Show me one. Just one statement. There's not one.
They was pointing to rap lyrics. I can't remember what the lyrics are, but they was telling me these rap lyrics.
No, there was rap lyrics about he was supporting a group of Muslims who had been detained at the time. It was a very controversial case during the War on Terror, during the Bush period. The Holy Land Foundation folks who were accused of channeling money to Hamas. That's a civil liberties issue. You can disagree or agree with it. That was his position. I challenge anyone to find me a statement from Zoran Mamdani where he says something anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic. In fact, it's the opposite. He spends his time cherishing diversity. He is the diversity candidate. It was Andrew Cuomo who went on MSNBC and confused Eugene Daniels with Jonathan Capehart, 2 black men, got them the wrong way around and said, well, diversity is not, that's not our strength, and all this crap that we're hearing. So it's so cynical, the weaponization of anti-Semitism against, let's be honest, it's not about anti-Semitism, it's about the fact that he's anti-Israel. The fact that he's a critic of Israel. And it's a conflation of the two. He's very unapologetic about his criticism of Israel. That's what pissed all these people off.
Let me ask you about that, because I did CNN last night with Ben Shapiro, and he referred to him as anti-Israel. And I was like, is it fair to say he's anti-Israel, or is he anti the Israeli government that is, committing war crimes?
Yeah.
In Gaza?
Well, he's definitely anti that, as every person with a heart should be. If you're not anti this Israeli government, you're a sociopath. But in terms of the actual, they would argue, let me just be fair to the critics. The critics would say he is anti-Israel because when he was asked, does it have a right to exist as a Jewish state? He says he believes it has a right to exist with equality for everyone. And this goes to the debate around Zionism and the nature of a Jewish state. Zoran Mamdani's position is, I'm an American. I believe in equal rights for everyone. I want that everywhere. Israel doesn't have that. Palestinians aren't full first-class equal citizens in Israel, even inside of Israel. So that's what I support. The funny thing is, he also says that about Saudi Arabia. He says that about India, right? He's criticized the Indian government for its nationalism, ethno-nationalism. He's against ethno-nationalism. We're Americans. We should all be against ethno-nationalism. So it's all exaggerated, I think, a lot. But you're right. Like, fundamentally, he's against genocide in Gaza, as are most Americans, as are 40% of American Jews think it's a genocide in Gaza. Again, not a monolithic community. But that's what really annoyed Bill Ackman. That's what annoyed Ben Shapiro. Not anything to do with anti-Semitism. That's all been completely cynically weaponized against him. And you'll see that as mayor. People will be fine.
I got another question about the government shutdown. The ACA premiums have already gone up. They're set for the year. Democrats, we appreciate the effort. But isn't it time to reopen the government?
I mean, who's in charge of the government?
Republicans, but you still need those 8 Democrat votes to vote.
Yeah, because of the filibuster they now want to get rid of, by the way.
Yeah.
Having spent years saying.
And by the way, I don't care who's responsible for it. It's a bipartisan. It's going to take a bipartisan effort. But isn't it time to reopen the government?
Yeah, of course it's time to reopen the government. But the Republicans are in charge of the government. You cannot
But
have
they still need those 8 Democratic votes.
But you cannot have a political system that always relies on only the Democratic Party being the responsible party. You just can't. America cannot survive. We've created, it's like having toddlers, right? The Republican Party are a bunch of toddlers, and everyone else has to be the adults in the room. And that cannot continue indefinitely. And at some point, I'm glad Democrats have drawn a line, even with Schumer and Jeffries, where they're saying, you know what? It's up to Republicans to govern responsibly. It's up to Republicans to stick to their pledges.
But we know they can't.
But that's the problem.
But we know they can't. The reason I say it,
with the greatest respect, my friend, you're part of the problem. You can't say we know they can't, because that immediately gives Republicans a pass and puts the entire American democracy, American government, American economy only in the hands of one party should have to deal with it.
I agree, but we know Republicans aren't going to do the right thing. Rent is due. You know, they're talking about cutting SNAP benefits. People got child care to pay, light bill, car notes. We need groceries. We need the Democrats to say, okay, we know y'all not going to give us no concessions. We fought the good fight. We're going to vote to reopen the government.
The problem with that argument is, if you're worried about human suffering, the counter argument is that reopening the government on Republican terms increases human suffering.
Yes, but the election's in 2026. So now you can say Republicans are responsible for your human suffering. Republicans are the reason you got high health care. So let's change this in 2026.
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but a lot of the stuff that Trump did in the big, beautiful bill, all the horrific stuff, they very smartly delayed that till after the midterms kick in.
The premiums already kicked in.
The premiums, a lot of the pain. So look, there's a strategic argument for doing what you're saying. I don't believe, I've been around long enough to know that this always ends with the Republicans benefiting from Democrats rolling over, and I'm glad to see Democrats not rolling over. Now,
I'm with you, but it's hard to see all this human suffering.
I agree, but human suffering cuts both ways.
These food banks are so, the lines of the food banks are so long.
100%.
You know, we got government workers calling up here every day.
But the fact but the fact that you and I are talking about Democrats and not Donald Trump starving Americans and saying, he said at the weekend, he goes, I will not, a court, let's just be very clear, a court has said he must release the funds to pay for SNAP. And he said, I'm not going to do it.
That's crazy.
That should be the conversation. It's not should Democrats open the government, it's should Donald Trump follow the law.
Oh, no, I'm just saying the government should be reopened. We just know it takes a bipartisan effort to do it. Yes, Republicans are the main issue here, but we can't act like it, 8 Democrats need to vote.
It'll be interesting to see if they get rid. He's now pushing for the filibuster nuking. It'll be interesting to see if they get rid of that filibuster, because, of course, in the long run, that will help Democrats.
They had a good night last night. Reopen the government. Let's reopen the government. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you, but I'm saying it's Republicans who have to reopen the government.
It's a bipartisan effort.
I mean, they control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the White House.
But it's still a bipartisan
8 Democrats
effort. I'm not
saying,
and by the way, I'm not even saying Democrats are the problem. I'm just saying it is a bipartisan effort.
Yeah.
I'm saying give people their money.
And I'm saying there's a cost to doing it. Because I'm saying there's a cost to doing that.
And where it's kind of disingenuous is if by some chance Republicans do make concessions, aren't you going to give the Democrats credit?
In what?
If the Democrats make concessions on health care.
If the Democrats or Republicans.
if Republicans make concessions on health care,
yes.
Aren't you going to give the Democrats credit?
I mean, yes.
So you got to give them the same credit now with the government being shut down.
Yes, that they have a role to play, yes. But the problem is, whose responsibility is it? That's the point. I don't think, again, it goes back to my thing. I can't treat Republicans like children and toddlers. I don't think American democracy can survive if we only have a 2-party system and one of the 2 parties is completely, we just don't take seriously. They can do whatever the hell they want. They can break any law, ignore any judge, shut down any government program, end USAID. And again, the costs of reopening the government, the costs of conceding on the Medicaid cuts and all of that stuff. Your point is, well, next year they can point in the midterms. But what about the suffering on that front till the midterms? What about the people who are going to lose health care between now and the midterms?
I agree with that, but man, that's one high bill to pay as opposed to not being able to pay your rent, not being able to pay your car note, not being able to pay your child care. Even if you have health care, now you still can't pay that because you're not making any money.
I agree. It's a horrific situation. It's why I wish people had not re-elected Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But we are where we are. We got Donald Trump for another 3 years minimum, maybe longer, as you and I fear.
And Democrats have to be the adults in the room. Because of that reason. They just have to, Mehdi. I know we don't want them to be. It shouldn't be like that, but it is.
No, but it isn't. Because I think you can. We have to change the way we talk about politics, the way we organize, the way the media covers this stuff. Because the minute you do this, okay, let me just give you, let's say they open the government tomorrow. Let's say there's 8 Democrats that fill up, whatever. They come in, government open up. What precedent does that set? It just means that Republicans will keep doing this again and again, knowing you've got 3 more years of pain and suffering.
Yes, but hopefully with the next, year, you can say, look at your health care benefits. Your health care benefits are high as hell. It's because of Republicans. 2026, y'all need to change this.
So the Republican Party runs a completely opposite manual when they're in opposition. They do everything they can, obviously, to not make government work. They don't care if people are starving and can't pay their rent. But then they electorally benefit from that, right? They benefit from saying, the government didn't work. Things didn't get through. And Democrats, unfortunately, I think are going to have to use that playbook, as cynical and ruthless as it has to be.
Jesus Christ.
I don't see another alternative. You tell me what the alternative is. You're hoping that the government opens up and things go back to normal, whatever normal is, and then people blame the Republicans. I'm not sure I see it.
Yeah, I would rather the government be open, people be getting paid, and we're having these arguments about healthcare and Republicans fucking shit up without, people having to miss paychecks.
But if the government's opened up, this is a Democratic argument. I'm not a Democrat, but the Democratic Party argument is if the government's opened up, you're going to have huge costs in the healthcare world.
Once again, that's one bill, as opposed to people not getting no checks to pay lights, rent, daycare, like no money coming in. Yeah, is horrible.
It's an effed up situation in this country. Yeah. We shouldn't. By the way, can I just point this out to people who are listening and watching? I'm from the UK. I'm an immigrant to the US. No other country functions like this. There's no other Western democracy that has government shutdowns. There's no other Western democracy that has debt ceilings. This is all artificial crap that's in our system that needs to be fixed. Again, when the Democrats are in office, they need to fix this stuff so that we don't have this constant cycle of this nonsense. The people are like, this is why people hate politics, to go back to what I said at the start.
Well, at least we got people like you here to bring some clarity to it.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Mehdi Hasan, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for breaking it down, and I'm sure you'll be back sooner than later.
Appreciate it.
A lot to talk about.
There always is. Thanks, guys.
All right, when we come back, we got the latest with Loren, so don't go anywhere. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Hold up. Every day I wake up, wake your ass up. The Breakfast Club.
Y'all finished or y'all done?